What's up, everyone? My name is Ale. Welcome back to my world of stocks, and welcome back to my 3 stocks on sale series, where I use all of the current market volatility to find you guys 3 new stocks that I think are on sale at today's prices for the long term. And to make things even more fun and interesting, I specifically choose one low risk, one medium risk, and one high risk stock to show you a little more variety of what's available out there in the market. Before we start though, just want to give you a quick heads up that in terms of which stocks I think are the best right now that are on sale, those would definitely be Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and other giants that have been getting really hammered recently that I think are great pickups for the long term. However, I've talked about those stocks extensively in recent videos, including a couple others. So if you want to learn more about those, I would just watch those recent videos I've made. In this series, I like to show you a wider variety of different stocks in each episode. So I'm not going to be including those, and we're going to look at some other stocks instead. So I hope you appreciate that variety, but if you're still with me, then let's go ahead and jump into today's fresh new list of stocks. I can't wait to talk to you guys about them. Okay, starting first here with our low risk option. This time we're going with the world's largest independent manufacturer of medical devices in Medtronic, ticker symbol MDT, which is also a monster dividend stock that I've personally been wanting to purchase very badly in recent months, but I've yet to pull the trigger. My temptations are growing though, as I continue to see this as a hugely underappreciated value dividend stock that investors are sleeping on because of the broader weakness in the macroeconomy, along with a massive bear market that has caused the stock to crash by more than a third of its value, while also raising its dividend to the highest level for the yield that it's ever been in its entire history. It's now at over a 3% yield, with still a great payout ratio below 50%. And if you think that's impressive, keep in mind that Medtronic has grown that dividend every single year for the past 45 years. It's almost reaching dividend king status of 5 decades. So that's an absolute beast of a dividend overall. And because of the crash, they're also left trading even cheaper than the sector by 10 to 20% despite them being a market leader. Speaking of which, business-wise, I would say Medtronic is very reliable because of their massive size and footprint, doing over 30 billion in sales with plenty of net income profit to go along with it. That dominance though is also the reason why the stock has been crashing, because it left them vulnerable to the pandemic as the largest medical device maker. See, people were staying home and avoiding hospitals while skipping surgeries and various medical procedures, which sent the demand for Medtronic's medical products way down, which also in turn sent their sales crashing by 5% in 2020. Since then though, it's recovered nicely by 4% in 2021, 5% in fiscal 2022, and it's expected to continue growing by about 1% in 2023, which is obviously low, but that's because of the horrible macroeconomy as well as a couple other things. And then as the economy recovers, analysts do expect their sales to bounce back to a mid to high single digit percentage the following year. And look, we can nitpick these specific numbers all we want, but overall, this is a slow moving, reliable business that I don't think is ever going to go away, which bodes very well for the dividend being reliable long term, especially with all of the future growth initiatives that they're able to invest back into their business because of their massive size, already operating in over 150 different countries around the world while spending billions of dollars on research and development every single year. In fact, last year alone, they completed over 235 clinical trials with close to 200 different brand new products being approved worldwide. So you can see how much that R&D really affects them and how much they invest in it. And there's still plenty of growth to be had in more specific markets too, like for example, surgical robotics, which is a market that is already worth close to $100 billion, and yet the saturation of it is still extremely low, so it's got plenty of room to get bigger. In fact, Medtronic estimates that only 3% of surgeries are even performed robotically right now, despite the huge benefits of greater precision, safety, and efficiency. So my question to you is, do you really think that the world's largest medical device company isn't going to play a huge role in this brand new market? Well, in fact, this is one of the biggest reasons why the stock crashed recently in the first place, because of their new surgical robotic system being delayed because of the supply chain issues related to the pandemic. And look, some of the crash I think is warranted, and I feel that Medtronic will never really be that high flying, glamorous growth stock in the market that gets all the attention and everyone loves to buy. But at these levels, what I think it is a very solid value, reliable dividend stock that is a great pickup for the long term. And while I don't own it yet myself, I am super tempted. I'm probably going to start buying this stock very soon. So make sure you stay on the lookout for an update coming from me where I announce that. But for now, I just think this is a great stock, and I think it should probably be on your radar. Okay, now while I don't currently own Medtronic yet, I do actually own this next stock that I think is extremely attractive at today's prices, and this is our medium risk option at stock number 2, which is none other than NVIDIA, ticker symbol NVDA. And when you look at it here, I mean, it's pretty crazy how much NVIDIA has crashed recently, right along with the rest of the semiconductor sector. But in their case, having already lost more than half of its entire value just this year alone, and more than 63% from its highs in what is probably the biggest drop that I've ever seen in NVIDIA stock. Now, sure, some of this is definitely warranted. NVIDIA has always traded with a rich valuation, which leaves it prone to crashing, and coming off of explosive growth that they saw during the pandemic where everyone was staying home, either working, learning, or playing, which drove demand for their computer and cloud processing chips that have always been considered really the gold standard across the market, sent it surging. But once things started to open back up and a global chip shortage came about because of lingering supply chain issues coupled with a horrible macro economy that was already in recession earlier this year, not to mention the growing competition from rivals like AMD and Intel, well, the result is that Nvidia's revenue growth is now plummeting to about flat this year before returning to double-digit growth next year, but ultimately nowhere close to what they were previously seeing, and that caused the stock to really crater, as a result. With the giant fall, though, may becoming a large buying opportunity when you consider that all of the underlying markets that Nvidia operates in are not only still intact, but they are very likely to explode in size over the coming years and even decades. In fact, Nvidia estimates that their total addressable market is already close to $1 trillion. For context, they only did less than $27 billion in all of last year. That's more than 37 times their current size. And as crazy as that sounds, I actually believe them that they have this market opportunity. Artificial intelligence alone is estimated to do over 15 trillion by 2030 just by itself. And Nvidia already powers 70% of the most powerful supercomputers in the world that run AI. There's also autonomous driving growing to over $2 trillion, which Nvidia's Drive platform is heavily involved in, helping over 35 of the biggest car makers already in the world to implement autonomous driving into their own vehicles, including Mercedes, Land Rover, Volvo, NIO, Hyundai. I mean, these are very big car companies, and there's tons more in what is a sales pipeline for them that is already worth over $11 billion, and it's likely to grow much larger over time. There's also my personal favorite market of smart cities, which I think is the most slept on and will easily be worth trillions of dollars over time, which NVIDIA's Metropolis Vision AI platform offers solutions for, including public safety, logistics, traffic management, and much more. As the world becomes more populated and more densely populated, smart cities are the future, guys. I'm telling you, don't sleep on that. And over the long term, I think that market alone could make NVIDIA stock worth its current price. But as if all of those areas weren't enough, NVIDIA is even developing their Omniverse platform that uses 3D rendering to create digital worlds as a replica of real life with extreme detail and accuracy. It's already attracted Amazon as one of their biggest customers who uses the platform to make changes to their fulfillment centers in the digital world before spending time and money and resources on making those changes to their physical physical real world version. So there's a lot of application to that. And I think a lot of companies will be interested in it. And it's also led to growing investments even into the metaverse, which has even attracted the biggest play of all in that, in Meta, who has enlisted Nvidia to power their infrastructure for the metaverse. Give it enough time, and that too could be a major growth driver as well. In fact, Meta just announced in their most recent earnings call that they'll be continuing to grow their capital expenditures on the metaverse by literally billions of dollars every year, which should result in even more purchases from Nvidia. When you put all of these things together, I think that the overall picture of Nvidia stock is very compelling from a long-term perspective. The current issues are unfortunate, but I do think that they will eventually pass. And this is a stock that I really look to continue to invest in for hopefully decades into the future. Okay, that's going to move us now to stock number 3. It's going to be our high risk option. And while I am a very big believer in Medtronic stock and Nvidia stock long term, this third stock here, I gotta be honest with you guys, I've been too afraid to pull the trigger on this one. But someone who is not afraid to invest in this stock is none other than the great Warren Buffett, who's literally been purchasing billions of dollars of this stock in recent quarters. It's a brand new addition to his portfolio. And that stock is going to be none other than the media giant known as Paramount Global, ticker symbol PARA, who has seen their stock get absolutely obliterated in recent years, falling by almost 80% from the top, leaving it now trading at almost the lowest levels in well over a decade, excluding the 2020 market crash. In fact, it's so interesting at these levels that several giant hedge funds have been scooping up shares in recent quarters, and mind you, they've been buying the stock for around double the price of where it trades today, with Warren Buffett being one of those, buying around $2 billion worth of the stock himself. And if there's anything that we know about Warren Buffett, it's that he loves to buy value dividend stocks, which is probably the biggest reason why he's decided to invest in Paramount. After the crash, their valuation has dropped all the way down to just a trailing P ratio of only 3. I mean, that's like right there. That's, typical Warren Buffett kind of valuation there that he just loves to buy. And that ratio, by the way, is 77% lower than the sector median. And not to mention that their dividend yield has also skyrocketed to a monstrous nearly 6%. Now, personally, I really worry about how safe that dividend is. I know it says on here that the payout ratio is only less than 20%, but that's based on trailing earnings. And the issue with Paramount is that their business is really struggling right now in the current macro environment, which is hurting their profits. So when you calculate it based on this year's earnings, it's actually more than double at 45% of a payout ratio. And if you use next year's earnings, it continues to soar to over 66%. So if that trend continues to climb like this, then that dividend may become unsustainable in just a few years' time, at which point it may need to be cut, especially if the business continues to struggle as they try to invest more heavily on future growth initiatives like the streaming service, which we will talk about in just a second. But keep in mind that earnings also fell by over 12% on average over the past 5 years and are expected to continue falling by over 6% because of the heavy investments that they need to make into the streaming service. This is EPS, by the way. With all of that said, though, Paramount has still shown a willingness and ability to pay dividends for many years, even through the struggles that they've had. And that dates all the way back to 2006, with the only cut happening during the Great Recession in 2009. Other than that, though, the dividend has mostly been growing every year since then, and again, that's despite the struggles. And their new Paramount Plus streaming service should be able to bring in at least some kind of growth thanks to their massive first-party content that I think could definitely attract a lot of customers, as it includes things like Nickelodeon with SpongeBob. They've got CBS, Comedy Central, MTV, BET. They have the new Halo series. They have their own major blockbuster studio that provides them with more hit content like Star Trek, major movies like Interstellar, Transformers, Indiana Jones, Sonic, and even Top Gun, which was the 5th best-selling movie of all time in the US. Altogether, it's boosting their sales by about 7% this year while achieving market share of about 4% in video streaming after sales grew by over 30% for Paramount Plus last quarter to over 40 million subs, although they still missed estimates for overall the company and the stock sank. When combining all the streaming services, though, Paramount now has over 60 million subs, which is pretty impressive considering their late entry into the market. However, my concern is that increased competition will ultimately limit their growth in the market. Warner Brothers Discovery, for example, already gained almost 100 million subs, while giants like Amazon, Netflix, and Disney have all surpassed 200 million subs each as well. And other big rivals like Apple TV and Comcast with Peacock are working hard to rise the ranks as well. And personally, I think around 3 to 4 streaming services is kind of the sweet spot for what the average household is willing to pay for. And you've got Amazon, which is just basically a given because so many people already have Amazon Prime to begin with, and Prime Video is just included with it. Netflix is the OG. Most people just kind of have Netflix without even really thinking about why they have it. Disney, I would say, is also kind of a must-have for so many people out there just because of Star Wars, Marvel, and all of the kids' content. It just makes sense for a lot of people to just kind of have it. And then you get to that fourth spot where you've got compelling choices for what's going to fill that slot from platforms like Hulu, you've got HBO Max, Apple TV, and of course Peacock. And while I do feel that Peacock is a very compelling choice on its own, that fourth slot I just feel is very competitive. So while I do love the dividend, I love the valuation, and I'm very tempted to start buying Paramount stock at these levels, I've just been holding off on it because I feel that there is a lot of competition, and I already own Amazon stock and Disney stock, which on their own give me a ton of very dominant exposure to video streaming. So I feel like I don't really need Paramount, but I admit that it is a very compelling option, especially as a high risk choice. And I can see why some people, like including Warren Buffett, would want to take a bet on it. But for now, I think I'll be holding off, even though I'm very, very tempted to buy this stock. But anyway, those are my thoughts. What do you guys think about the 3 stocks that I brought in front of you today? Do you own any of them? Or do you think any of them are a good choice? Or what other stocks would you like to see maybe featured in a future episode? And I'll make sure to cover those if I think that they're a compelling choice as well. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. We'll have a chat. Hope you're all doing well. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.